3. Oriental Hotel, Yokohama, 10th July 1893. Dear Alasinga, Balaji, GG, Banking Corporation, and all my Madras friends. Excuse my not keeping you constantly informed of my movements. One is so busy every day, and especially myself, who am quite new to the life of possessing things and taking care of them. That consumes so much of my energy. It is really an awful botheration. From Bombay, we reached Colombo. Our steamer remained in port for nearly the whole day, and we took the opportunity of getting off to have a look at the town. We drove through the streets, and the only thing I remember was a temple in which was a very gigantic murti image of the Lord Buddha in a reclining posture, entering Nirvana. The next station was Penang, which is only a strip of land along the sea in the body of the Malaya Peninsula. The Malayas are all Mohammedans and in old days were noted pirates and quite a dread to merchantmen. But now the Leviathan guns of modern turreted battleships have forced the Malayas to look about for more peaceful pursuits. On our way from Penang to Singapore, we had glimpses of Sumatra with its high mountains, and the captain pointed out to me several places as the favorite haunts of pirates in days gone by. Singapore is the capital of the Straits Settlements. It has a fine botanical garden with the most splendid collection of palms. The beautiful fan-like palm, called the traveller's palm, grows here in abundance, and the breadfruit tree everywhere. The celebrated mangosteen is as plentiful here as mangoes in Madras, but mango is nonpareil. The people here are not half so dark as the people of Madras, although so near the line. Singapore possesses a fine museum too. Hong Kong next. You feel that you have reached China. The Chinese element predominates so much. All labor, all trade seems to be in their hands, and Hong Kong is real China. As soon as the steamer casts anchor, you are besieged with hundreds of Chinese boats to carry you to the land. These boats with two helms are rather peculiar. The boatman lives in the boat with his family. Almost always, the wife is at the helms, managing one with her hands and the other with one of her feet. And in 90% of cases, you find a baby tied to her back, with the hands and feet of the little chin left free. It is a quaint sight to see the little John Chinaman dangling very quietly from his mother's back, whilst she is now setting with might and main, now pushing heavy loads, or jumping with wonderful agility from boat to boat. And there is such a rush of boats and steam launches coming in and going out. Baby John is every moment put into the risk of having his little head pulverized, pigtail and all, but he does not care a fig. This busy life seems to have no charm for him, and he is quite content to learn the anatomy of a bit of rice cake given to him from time to time by the madly busy mother. The Chinese child is quite a philosopher and calmly goes to work at an age when your Indian boy can hardly crawl on all fours. He has learnt the philosophy of necessity too well. Their extreme poverty is one of the causes why the Chinese and the Indians have remained in a state of mummified civilization. To an ordinary Hindu or Chinese, everyday necessity is too hideous to allow him to think of anything else. Hong Kong is a very beautiful town. It is built on the slopes of hills and on the tops too, which are much cooler than the city. There is an almost perpendicular tramway going to the top of the hill, dragged by wire rope and steam power. We remained 3 days at Hong Kong and went to see Canton, which is 80 miles up a river. The river is broad enough to allow the biggest steamers to pass through. A number of Chinese steamers ply between Hong Kong and Canton. We took passage on one of these in the evening and reached Canton early in the morning. What a scene of bustle and life! What an immense number of boats almost covering the waters! And not only those that are carrying on the trade, but hundreds of others which serve as houses to live in, and quite a lot of them so nice and big. In fact, they are big houses 2 or 3 stories high, with verandas running round and streets between, and all floating. We landed on a strip of ground given by the Chinese government to foreigners to live in. Around us on both sides of the river for miles and miles is the big city, a wilderness of human beings, pushing, struggling, surging, roaring. But with all its population, all its activity, It is the dirtiest town I saw, not in the sense in which a town is called dirty in India, for as to that not a speck of filth is allowed by the Chinese to go waste, but because of the Chinaman, who has, it seems, taken a vow never to bathe. Every house is a shop, people living only on the top floor. The streets are very, very narrow, so that you almost touch the shops on both sides as you pass. At every 10 paces you find meat stalls, and there are shops which sell cats and dogs' meat. Of course, only the poorest classes of Chinamen eat dog or cat. The Chinese ladies can never be seen. They have got as strict a zenana as the Hindus of northern India. Only the women of the laboring classes can be seen. Even amongst these, one sees now and then a woman with feet smaller than those of your youngest child, and of course they cannot be said to walk, but hobble. I went to see several Chinese temples. The biggest in Canton is dedicated to the memory of the first Buddhistic emperor and the 500 first disciples of Buddhism. The central figure is of course Buddha, and next beneath him is seated the emperor, and ranging on both sides are the statues of the disciples, all beautifully carved out of wood. From Canton I returned back to Hong Kong, and from thence to Japan. The first port we touched was Nagasaki. We landed for a few hours and drove through the town. What a contrast! The Japanese are one of the cleanliest peoples on earth. Everything is neat and tidy. Their streets are nearly all broad, straight, and regularly paved. Their little houses are cage-like, and their pine-covered evergreen little hills form the background of almost every town and village. The short-statured, fair-skinned, quaintly dressed Japs, their movements, attitudes, gestures, everything is picturesque. Japan is the land of the picturesque. Almost every house has a garden at the back, very nicely laid out according to Japanese fashion with small shrubs, grass plots, small artificial waters, and small stone bridges. From Nagasaki to Kobe, here I gave up the steamer and took the land route to Yokohama, with a view to see the interior of Japan. I have seen 3 big cities in the interior: Osaka, a great manufacturing town, Kyoto, the former capital, and Tokyo, the present capital. Tokyo is nearly twice the size of Calcutta with nearly double the population. No foreigner is allowed to travel in the interior without a passport. The Japanese seem now to have fully awakened themselves to the necessity of the present times. They have now a thoroughly organized army equipped with guns which one of their own officers has invented and which is said to be second to none. Then they are continually increasing their navy. I have seen a tunnel nearly a mile long, bored by a Japanese engineer. The match factories are simply a sight to see, and they are bent upon making everything they want in their own country. There is a Japanese line of steamers plying between China and Japan, which shortly intends running between Bombay and Yokohama. I saw quite a lot of temples. In every temple there are some Sanskrit mantras written in old Bengali characters. Only a few of the priests know Sanskrit, but they are an intelligent sect. The modern rage for progress has penetrated even the priesthood. I cannot write what I have in my mind without the Japs in one short letter. Only I want that numbers of our young men should pay a visit to Japan and China every year. Especially to the Japanese, India is still the dreamland of everything high and good. And you, what are you? Talking twaddle all your lives, vain talkers, what are you? Come, see these people, and then go and hide your faces in shame. A race of dotards. You lose your caste if you come out. Sitting down these hundreds of years with an ever-increasing load of crystallized superstition on your heads, for hundreds of years spending all your energy upon discussing the touchableness or untouchableness of this food or that, with all humanity crushed out of you by the continuous social tyranny of ages, what are you? And what are you doing now? Promenading the seashores with books in your hands, repeating undigested stray bits of European brainwork, and the whole soul bent upon getting a 30-rupee clerkship, or at best becoming a lawyer, the height of young India's ambition, and every student with a whole brood of hungry children cackling at his heels and asking for bread. Is there not water enough in the sea to drown you? Books, gowns, university diplomas and all? Come, be men. Kick out the priests who are always against progress, because they would never mend, their hearts would never become big. They are the offspring of centuries of superstition and tyranny. Root out priestcraft first. Come, be men. Come out of your narrow holes and have a look abroad. See how nations are on the march. Do you love man? Do you love your country? Then come. Let us struggle for higher and better things. Look not back. No, not even if you see the dearest and nearest cry. Look not back, but forward. India wants the sacrifice of at least 1,000 of her young men, mind, and not brutes. The English government has been the instrument brought over here by the Lord to break your crystallized civilization, and Madras supplied the first men who helped in giving the English a footing. How many men, unselfish, thoroughgoing men, is Madras ready now to supply? To struggle unto life and death to bring about a new state of things, sympathy for the poor, and bread to their hungry mouths, enlightenment to the people at large, and struggle unto death to make men of them who have been brought to the level of beasts by the tyranny of your forefathers. Yours, etc., Vivekananda. P.S. Calm and silent and steady work, and no newspaper humbug, no name making, you must always remember.